Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center and Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org. Edina Eye Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years now in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services and dedicated specialists committed to excellence with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Welcome to Access to Democracy. I'm Bill Raker, your host for this edition of the program. Let's say hello to our guest, Brian Ryks, who is the Executive Director and CEO of the Metropolitan Airports Commission. Brian, welcome to Access to Democracy.
Thank you, Bill. Always great to be with you.
Well, there are a lot of exciting things and impactful things that have happened over at MSP over recent years, and we want to talk about those, but before we get into that, we'll talk a little bit about yourself and your role there. For the benefit, the clarification of our viewers, I'd like to make certain that they understand that when we say the MAC, we're talking about the Metropolitan Airports Commission. And when we say MSP, we're referring to the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport. So MAC and MSP, and they'll come up frequently in our conversation today. So Brian, tell us about your role there with the MAC and MSP and what that really means.
Well, I'm the Executive Director and CEO. We have about 650, going on about 700 employees, so it's a fairly substantial size organization. But my responsibility is to really oversee and administer 7 airports, as you mentioned, the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, and then 6 reliever airports that are in our system. We're a large system of airports, obviously, and many people don't know, actually the largest system of airports in North America operated by one autonomous airport authority or commission in this case. So it's a large, substantial operation. But my job is to really oversee the day-to-day operation, the investments that we make in preserving all of those assets as airports and ensuring that things run smoothly on a day-to-day basis.
Well, that's a big job because I think most people don't understand or appreciate just how big the airport operations are for the MAC. It's not just MSP. Where are the other airports located that the MAC has responsibility for?
So it started, and what I tell people is when you think about when the Airports Commission was established back in 1943, I always think about the foresight that the governor at the time and the legislature must have had in determining or deciding that they are going to establish an autonomous airport commission. It's not going to be, the airports in this case are not going to be owned and operated by cities or counties. They're going to establish this commission to operate Minneapolis-St. Paul and then this system of relievers, which includes St. Paul Downtown Airport, Lake Elmo Airport, Anoka Airport to the north, Crystal Airport to the northwest, Flying Cloud Airport, which is our busiest general aviation airport out to the west in Eden Prairie, and then Air Lake Airport, which is down in Lakeville and part of the industrial park down in Lakeville. Well,
that's quite an expansive operation, and I suppose that means that there's a lot of air traffic here around Minneapolis and the Twin Cities.
There is. I mean, just into Minneapolis. I mean, we've obviously COVID has had a pretty big impact on numbers of operations, landings and takeoffs at Minneapolis. Our peak number of arrivals and departures was back in about 2008 at Minneapolis, and that was about 550,000 takeoffs and landings. That number has dropped to about 300,000 currently, but all of those general aviation airports also have significant operations as well. And the way the system was set up, Bill, was they really wanted, because of the small footprint that MSP encompasses, only about 3,400 acres, which is very small when you think of a large airport. The focus or the purpose was really to concentrate scheduled air carrier and scheduled air cargo service at MSP, and then push all of that other, general aviation, corporate traffic out to this system of relievers, so we could take advantage of the real estate at MSP really to focus on air service and cargo service. It's a system that works well, and I'll give you an example of how well it works. When we hosted the Super Bowl a few years ago, we had over 1,100 corporate aircraft descend upon the Twin Cities region. And we accommodated about 350 of those at MSP. The rest were all absorbed in our reliever airport system, and it worked very well. Without that, we would have had delays at MSP trying to accommodate that much traffic coming in at a short period of time. Final Four was another example, not quite to the volume, but it really demonstrates, again, I think the foresight that the governor back in 1943 and the legislature had to establish a commission and establish a system of airports. It just started with Minneapolis and St. Paul, and I think it was to also help try to determine which airport was going to be the scheduled air service airport. Was it going to be Minneapolis and St. Paul? And the decision was Minneapolis. But then the system evolved with all of these other airports as well.
Well, it was fortunate to have that vision, that long-term vision of what could happen.
Absolutely.
With the passenger traffic through MSP, it's like the 16th largest airport from passenger traffic in the United States. So that's impressive, but could you share some of the other statistics about the operations of the airport that might be of interest to our viewers?
Absolutely. You mentioned 16th largest, so we accommodated almost 40 million passengers back in 2019. That dropped substantially, obviously, during COVID, but this year we'll be back up to about 80% of that level, 31, 32 million passengers. We have 118 gates between the two terminals that we have that airlines will pull up to. A large amount of those are Delta gates, obviously, and then Sun Country occupies a large number at Terminal 2. We have about 120, food, beverage, and retail concessions at the facility. We have 4 runways, a set of parallel runways, and a north-south, and then a northeast-south-west runway that is about 12,000 feet long. So again, when you look at that small footprint, it's a pretty large operation with a lot going on every single day.
So let's extend that into the area of the economic impact that the airport operations has for the community and the state. Can you give us a little perspective about how important that is?
Absolutely. I mean, when we think about that 3,400 acres, it's often said that it is one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in the region, and it generates about $16 billion in annual economic impact. So tremendous impact all around. There are about 86,000 employees that are impacted by the airport. Now we have about anywhere between 17,000 and 20,000 employees that work right on the campus. But it's a tremendous asset for the region. Obviously, from an air service standpoint, an air cargo standpoint, the ability for people to fly in and conduct business, whether it's at MSP or one of the reliever airports. So airports are just fantastic assets for a region. I think this is a great example of one.
Well, I think you've explained very well the contributions that the airport operations has here to our community and to our state. But there are often trade-offs for those kinds of assets to be in the community.
Absolutely.
And for some of the people who live in the vicinity of the airport, they sometimes feel that there are things emanating from the airport or from its operations that kind of eat into the quality of life. And I know that the MAC and MSP and the participating airlines have done a lot of things in the past to try to mitigate that impact. Are there things going on today that could contribute to a better quality of life?
Well, absolutely. And you're referring to noise, obviously, with the location of the airport. And you know, if you remember back to the mid-1990s, that the airport was under a dual track approach where they were trying to determine, is the airport going to stay here or is it going to move out to a different location?
Right. Yes.
That decision was made by the legislature to keep it in its current location. I think much of that was the existing investments that have been made and the proximity. I mean, it's so close to the downtowns of both Minneapolis and St. Paul and Bloomington and all of the investments that have been made around there. So as far as noise is concerned, the Airports Commission has been very proactive in investing in noise mitigation efforts. In fact, we have spent more than any airport in the country, over $500 million, insulating homes and structures and schools around the facility. We actually even, typically the FAA defines a noise impacted area by what they call a 65 LDN noise contour. We've actually gone out to the 60 LDN and we're the first airport to do that, recognizing how impactful the operation can be to those residences. So we've insulated over 15,000 homes and included in that is schools and multi-unit residential complexes. And so I think it's been a good story. And there's been a lot of dialogue between the Airports Commission and the community surrounding the airport. We have a noise oversight committee that is made up of individuals representing communities and also individuals representing the industry, our airlines, our cargo carriers. And that group comes together on a monthly basis and talks about measures that we can implement to help reduce those environmental impacts. And it's hard when you have the level of operations that the way that we do, but we've really invested and been, in my mind, very responsible with what we've done, working with communities around the airport to ensure that we're being the best possible neighbor that we can be.
Well, clearly from what you're sharing with us, Brian, MSP has a lot going for it, and you and your staff as well. Now, I understand that J.D. Powers has rated MSP #1 in its airport class for 5 years in a row. Did I get that right?
I'm going to correct that a little bit. So there's a couple of different awards that we have won. What you're referring to is Airports Council International has a airport service quality process that airports go through. And basically what it is, it's individuals that are out at the airport surveying passengers on 17 different areas. And we have won the Airport Service Quality Award 5 of the last 6 years for customer service. And there's all different kinds of things. It's about wait times, it's about cleanliness of facilities, it's about friendliness of and customer service, the level of concessions that you have, going through security, going through airline queue lines, and we have finished top airport in our category the last 5 out of 6 years. And I tell people it would have been 6 for 6, but during COVID we actually pulled the surveyors off the floor because we didn't want them to be, we were concerned about their health. However, J.D. Powers, to your point, did award us the #1 airport in the country just a few months ago, and the first time that we had received that award, and we're very proud of it.
Well,
excellent.
Congratulations.
And it's really a shout out to the various stakeholders that are out there, whether it's airlines or the TSA or Customs and Border Protection, all of our concessionaires. We have something that is really special and unique at Minneapolis, and we focus on customer service. It is a top priority of mine, but we have something called an Airport Foundation that is made up of over 400 volunteers that come out to the airport and that integrate with our passengers and our customers and help them along the way. The Airport Foundation also has a arts and performance program where we bring local artists into the airport and have our facilities just full of wonderful local art. We have a performance program where we bring local musicians out to entertain passengers. We have an animal ambassador program that consists of not only canines, but I think we still have one feline out there that is pushed around in a buggy or a cart or a stroller. So I give the Airport Foundation a lot of credit for our success, again, amongst all of the other individuals that work out there. It's really a focus, and I tell people, where does it start? And I think it starts with our upper Midwestern culture. Minnesota Nice, I think, is real at the airport, but we're very proud of it, and we're very happy to be recognized for those efforts.
Well, a lot of effort and attention does go into the detail of every aspect of the travel experience for the passengers going through the airport and for the airlines and their employees that serve the airport. So again, congratulations. You got the bar kind of high now to keep that high rating.
We do, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because we compete with Detroit, we compete with a few other airports out there, but I think the amazing thing, Bill, is how the facility has been transformed to, we talked about it staying in its current location. That terminal facility was built in the early 60s and opened in the early 60s, and it's amazing how it's been transformed to support, the movement of the volume of passengers that are currently going through there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, Brian. We know that the COVID virus lockdown was a real blow to everyone and every aspect of our lives. And the slowdown in air traffic and passenger traffic, while it was, a real negative impact to everything, it also gave you and your team an opportunity to do some really exciting things without disrupting passenger traffic. So tell us about some of the great things that have changed out at the airport in the last few years.
Sure. Well, I hate to even say if there's a silver lining to COVID because of how impactful it was, but if there was, it did give us an opportunity to move some things forward that were going to be very challenging from the outset. And I tell us a little bit of a story where I was giving a presentation, I believe it was in January, February of 2020. And during that time, we were still, our growth rate, we were above 2019 monthly levels by, I think, 6% and 8% respectively during those months. So we were looking forward to another record year. And I was out giving a presentation, and someone said, "What is your biggest concern right now?" And I said, "My biggest concern right now is the MnDOT Highway 5 reconstruction project going into the airport, because it's going to be miserable for our passengers trying to get there." They were closing, the northbound entrance, for 3 or 4 months, and then the southbound. And so
I was traveling that time.
Yeah. And then COVID hit. and we didn't have any issue. MnDOT got out there and did the project. We also had the opportunity to move some projects along. Our inbound and outbound roadways needed to be reconstructed as well, and I went to our engineering department and I said, now's the time to do that, and let's do it right. I mean, the original plan was just to put a pavement overlay over it and do a lot of that work at night. We were able to take most of the lanes or half the lanes away, reconstruct them with concrete. We have a beautiful entrance to the facility now. So that was a benefit. In addition, we were able to complete the Silver Ramp, which is a new 5,000 space parking structure and an intermodal transportation center during COVID. We were able to continue and speed up elements of what we call our operational improvements program. This was a program to completely remodel and expand our ticketing, baggage, and vertical circulation elements in the facility. And when you do those projects, when you're trying to accommodate 40 million people, you have to do them in little small pieces. And as we were doing the flooring during COVID, we were able to actually take larger areas and reconstruct them. The other benefit of that project, however, is we added 15 feet to the front of the upper and lower levels of that facility, which gave us additional space for social distancing during COVID. Right. So those were great benefits. Right now, we've moved into Concourse G and have transformed the end of that concourse by putting in a new atrium or rotunda, as it's called. There's going to be a third Delta Sky Club on the top of that rotunda area. We've completely remodeled gates. We've added about 50,000 square feet of space down there. So it did give us an opportunity to really move some things forward in a nice way. And the projects, the projects that people experience, the terminal projects, the roadway projects. I mean, you can always do a runway and there's inconveniences there, but if folks haven't been out to that airport recently, I mean, they'll be surprised at the transformation that really has taken place.
Well, we have an airport that we can be very proud of here in the Twin Cities and in Minnesota, and thanks to you and your management team and your staff for all that you do. As we wrap up our last few minutes here of our interview, anything that you could share with us that addresses the vision or the growth projection for the MAC and for MSP over the next decade?
Sure. We're also currently in what we call our long-term comprehensive plan process. Now, that process was going on pre-COVID, and we paused it for obvious reasons. We've picked that project back up now. And what that project is all about is really planning for the future, planning for the next 20 years of growth at the airport and how we best accommodate that growth. And so we're working our way through that. But areas that we really are looking at are additional gates. Sun Country is in need of additional gates for their growth projections over at Terminal 2. We're looking at, do we need to revise or expand our customs facilities to support international travel and international passengers coming in. So we're looking at different options there. We're looking at some realignment with Concourse E and F. Those are the ones that kind of go off at a little bit of an angle, but should we realign those a little bit to make the overall operation more efficient? And it's really about, does the airfield have the capacity to accommodate future growth, which it does. I mean, we're in good shape from an airfield standpoint with the number of runways, but it's primarily looking at facilities and how we continue to accommodate that growth in demand over the coming years.
So what's your biggest challenge right at the moment?
I think there's a couple challenges, Bill. I think one is labor, and someone told me, back in 2020, I was at an airport conference and someone said something about the shortage of labor is going to be a dysfunction that we're going to have to deal with over the coming years, and we are dealing with it. We're short about 500 to 600 employees when you look at throughout the different elements, with TSA, the airlines, our concessionaires. It's a real challenge, and just like others are experiencing challenges as well. The other challenge we have, I would say, is we had to push, even though we sped some projects up, we still had to pull back about $300 million in capital improvements that we were planning on doing. And the reason for that is we operate as a business, like a business. We don't take in local taxpayer dollars. And so when our operations dropped dramatically in 2020 and 2021, we lost a lot of revenue. And typically we would take in about $400 million annually in revenue, and that revenue is, much of that revenue is put back into investing in projects all around the airport. And so we have to catch up. And so we're investing more now, and we'll need to continue to do that over the coming years.
So the MAC MSP is a self-funding operation. No tax dollars go into it from
That's correct.
operations.
That's correct. It's based on, the concept is if you use the airport, you help pay for it. If you do business at the airport, you'll help pay for it. We receive a concession fee from our vendors. If you park at the airport, obviously you help pay for it. So it's a user fee approach. It's a great approach. We do have the ability to levy a tax, but I can tell you we have no interest in doing that because the model that we're currently under works well and should always work well here.
Well, that's great news, I think, that people appreciate hearing and understanding that about the airport operations. As we wrap up our visit with Brian Ryks, anything else about MSP or the MAC that you'd like to share with us that we didn't get to cover?
Well, I think if you're looking for a job, there's always opportunities.
Well, maybe some of our viewers might respond.
Yeah, there's opportunities there, and we look forward to good things in the future. We're focused on data acquisition and how we can improve the passenger experience, and really we talk about a seamless passenger journey, and how can we, what things can we do to ensure that people are getting through the facility as efficiently as possible. And that takes a lot of collaboration and partnership with airlines and the federal government, with TSA and CBP, but we're being very proactive on data and investing in innovation and technology to make people's lives easier and simpler as they go through our facilities. The other thing I would say is sense of place. Our concession program is wonderful. When people fly into our airport, we want them to get a sense of what the Twin Cities region and the state of Minnesota is all about, and I think we've been successful in doing that.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for being our guest on Access to Democracy and giving us an update on the Metropolitan Airports Commission and the MSP. Really appreciate your time and all that you do to make sure that we have a great operation and a safe operation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Great to be here.
And thank our viewers for watching us.